So yeah, before we got cut off, we were talking about the importance of getting enough carbs so that you can be successful in this lifestyle, and just like having the mindset of, you know, you have the evidence in people who've been long-term doing this and what our results are, and the science is out there, and now it's just about putting it into practice and being consistent with it and trusting the process and focusing on how good you feel, and that's what's going to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Just really, once you're dedicated to it, you will start seeing the results. It's guaranteed to happen if you are putting in the work for it.
Absolutely. So what's in your smoothie over there?
Okay, so this is all just for me, not just for 4 people. It's got frozen blueberries, I don't know how many bananas. I just kept filling it up. I think like 6 or 7 bananas. And I just poured sugar in it, cinnamon, and a dash of soy milk and water. Heaps of sugar. You got like half a cup of raw sugar in there.
Yeah, no, that sounds so good. I had a smoothie similar to that earlier today. That combination is so good.
Anything with bananas is so good. Like I need to have bananas and sugar. Otherwise, it's just like yeah, like I love Gatorade too, but bananas hit different for me.
Oh yeah, I know. I feel the same. I like to have dates. I like to eat dates. I don't blend dates as much. And I think it's like because I enjoy eating them so much. I enjoy eating bananas too, but bananas in a smoothie is like a milkshake, you know?
Especially frozen, like ice cream.
Yeah, that hits a spot. Like you don't have cravings for, the nasty stuff or the high fat vegan ice cream when you're having your frozen banana milkshakes all the time.
I find it even tastier than the vegan ice creams because they don't have as much sugar in them, and
Yeah.
you just feel crap after. Like it's good to have once in a while just to see how good it is to have bananas blended up instead.
That's a
So
good point. Like most things are not properly sweet.
it's even like vegan junk food. They're mostly high in fat and low in sugar, and it doesn't really kick the craving. If you want to kick your cravings, have this. Have sugar poured in fruit smoothies, and it will really kick those cravings you have. Like desserts or sweets, and we all have a sweet tooth for a reason.
Yeah, and a lot of times sugar is the Trojan horse for the fats. Most people who have a hard time sticking with this diet are afraid to eat enough carbohydrates, afraid to have enough sugar, and really like that is the key to being successful with the diet aspect and keeping the fats out. You don't crave the fats when you eat enough sugar. And really like fat in terms of a macronutrient is like a storage nutrient. Like it really doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own. And it's very dense in calories and it's harder for the body to break down. So it goes directly to storage. So the only way people are typically eating a lot of fats is when they're adding a lot of sugar to it as well, or it's coming with sugar, or it's coming with salt. Salt's a way to get the fat into, but I don't know how these people can eat. Like I've seen this one woman that people asked me to do a diet review of, and I haven't done it yet. But she just eats like burgers and like butter, and that's like her diet. And
Like
like
meat.
yeah, like hamburger meat and butter, like, and that's what she
How
eats.
boring.
How disgusting. I'm just like, oh, and they're like, but she's so skinny. And I'm like, is that really what you want to eat to like be skinny? Like,
Like, and how's her performance going up a hill, riding or running up it? I bet me and you could smash her up.
Oh yeah. I mean, this lady to me looks anorexic. I wish I knew her name. But she's just obviously not that important to me to like remember. But
And
that's
imagine
that.
her breath and her body odor, how much she would stink. And
Yeah. Yeah. But she lost like 100 pounds, eating like 3 hamburgers a day with like butter on them. And I'm like, I don't think that that's what you want to be doing. You're setting yourself up for having diabetes, heart disease. There's obviously like metabolic damage there. Like the woman is clearly like starving herself in order to be at the weight she's at. And I don't know, but people like they see, or even like, I don't know if you know Tanny Raw.
I've heard of her, like the raw vegan.
Yeah, yeah. And that's another like scene where people can get trapped in where, they come off like they have this good message, like, look at all this, healthy food I'm eating, but it comes to like 1,200 calories a day. And or there's the raw food people and the breatharians and the juice
Oh,
fasters. And like I was watching a video today, showed up in my YouTube feed and I was doing laundry, and these people were just all having this chat about like how to become basically a breatharian. And I'm like, why is that like your goal, to like not eat? Like a lot of those people in that community, they've had child protective services come for their children because they've ended up in the ER with their kids. It's so sad, because their child is that malnourished that they had to
and
go
it's
to the
horrible.
emergency
Like
room.
they're anorexic, they're orthorexic, they're fearing the carbs, they're fearing sugar. They have no performance. They're just focusing on weight loss, and anyone can lose weight eating absolutely junk food if they're really starving themselves. But what is the long-term results of that? Like, there's no long-term health and vitality for that.
Yeah. And like when people talk about science too, there's no science that supports living that way, living as like a breatharian, for instance, where you're not eating anything and you're just breathing air all day. Your
Mm.
body literally breaks itself down to the point where eventually like you die. Like I've seen it before. I know this girl who was severely anorexic. She was in and out of the hospital for it, and eventually she died from it. And I just can't believe that like that movement unfortunately seems like it's bigger than like the high carb vegan movement. And a lot of times when people are in the high carb vegan movement, they're following like the Chelsea May Cullens, they're following the high carb Hannahs, the Plantiful Kiki, the Broccoli Mom, and all these people who are promoting a high carb diet, but they're also promoting restriction, that 50-50 plates. And I don't like when it comes to this lifestyle, I end up with like everybody's ex-clients, like Dr. Brooke Goldner's
Yeah,
ex-clients, Healthy Emmy's ex-clients.
keto only as well. Have you heard
Yeah.
of the keto only cleanse?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know why people would just want to eat like potatoes. Like, it sounds like a good way to undereat because you're restricting yourself to one type of food, which potatoes are healthy, but you're going to have cravings for other things. And what happens when your potato cleanse is over and then you gain a bunch of weight back and you're like, oh, I'll just go back on my potato cleanse. I just don't know why somebody would want to live that way, or do those things. And getting back to Tanny Raw, like I have one of her ex-clients too, who was told to eat 1,200 calories a day. And I don't know why people, I mean, they get so convinced of these people's results, right? Look how much weight I've lost, but I guess I don't understand why they're not being convinced by like our results or your results. And I get people, well, I've never seen somebody lose like over 100 pounds in this lifestyle. I'm like, I'm sure they have, they're just not on social media.
Yeah, we need to broadcast ourselves more out there, and probably our marketing is not the greatest.
Well, I also think that the algorithm does not favor our content because it's the truth.
Yes, the truth wants to be hidden. Well, it's trying to be hidden with all this indoctrinated sugar-free, orthorexic, like looking away from carbs. Carbs are the devil, the enemy. It's making more money. It's really
Well,
trying to
that's
scam people
yeah,
and
and
scam
that's the thing is I think that all the people who are promoting calorie restriction for weight loss, they're almost like because that's the mainstream model that oh, they're more algorithm friendly because they're promoting calorie restriction for weight loss. Like if you do anything raw vegan now, the algorithm will like pick your content up so quickly, and it's so sad because it's just another form of restrictive eating. Now, I don't think that all raw veganism like has to be restrictive eating. Like a lot of Freely's old content, she was showing how to do raw vegan and get enough calories in and be high carb and stuff, but nobody's eating the way that she was like when she was eating like 5,000 calories a day from bananas.
Mm, yeah, it's definitely doable if you're in a tropical climate, if you had lots and lots of access to a lot of fruit. And but even then, like she would use coconut sugar and raw sugar behind scenes to get it all in, because you can't just be having everything just fruit. You need some sugar supplementation
Yeah.
to eliminate those fatty food cravings
And I
and
even
eating.
noticed now with like her current content, or when she previously in the last year or so was raw vegan, her diet was a lot higher in fat content, trying to stay raw vegan. And that's like very typical of the raw vegan community. You'll see that they're definitely eating more like nuts and seeds and avocado and things like that. And it's to keep themselves like raw with eating enough calories, I guess, because the fats give more calorie density. But I don't even know why you would like do that. Like, why wouldn't you just eat more carbs?
Well, it's easier to stay low fat if you bring the potatoes and rice in and sugar in. It's way easier to stay low fat. Um,
Absolutely. Really need all of it.
yeah, like why restrict yourself to one certain food group? Like make it easier for yourself to get the carbs in.
Yeah, that carbohydrate sufficiency is what our body desires. Like we need to be able to get enough carbs, whether it's from fruit, sugar, or starch, in order to thrive as humans. And when you put all three together, you get the best results. When you restrict any one of those, then your results end up subpar. You end up not performing as well fitness wise, and then the cravings for the fats come in as well. Um, yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I feel like I'm always like repeating myself when it comes to a lot of things, but I watch all these, well, I don't watch a whole lot of content on YouTube, but I'll see what's kind of trending, and it just makes me sad that everybody's always gravitating towards the restrictive diet regardless of whether it's raw vegan, vegan, non-vegan, like Sane Vlot, who's like a Victoria's Secret supermodel. Her content of what she eats in a day is so atrocious, but yet like she's got so many followers and she's like hitting such a huge,
Mm,
market with her message, and it's awful. It's starvation. It promotes insulin resistance. Like she did a
girls.
what's that?
So bad for young girls to see that.
And that's what young girls are seeing, and it's so sad. And then they come to us and they gain like 40, 50, 60 pounds doing the diet we promote, and then they're like, well, this diet made me fat because I previously came from this restriction. It's like, well, you and I are both telling people like we did gain weight after restriction on this lifestyle, but we've also lost it and now have better health than ever, so it's worth it.
The rebound weight is caused from those restrictive diets, not from this lifestyle.
Right. The restriction causes a form of insulin resistance that cannot be fixed unless you eat enough carbohydrates.
Yeah, definitely. It's uh, I have to keep repeating that message just for people to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important though. And I feel like what you're saying, the more of us who get on here and share the message and keep kind of like replaying the science, a little bit of the science, like eating low carb causes insulin resistance, not eating enough calories causes insulin resistance, because people don't know this. They think that insulin resistance gets fixed doing those things because that's the mainstream message, when like actually the clinical data shows otherwise. And what I don't understand is like McDougall came out, he was the first person to kind of highlight that eating sugar like promotes insulin sensitivity. And when you look
Mm.
at the data that Harold Hemsworth came up with, I know Harley knows what I'm talking about because I actually asked him to send me the the clinical data PDF. And in that article, it says that this guy discovered, like in the early 1900s, that eating high carb, low fat, eating enough calories promoted insulin sensitivity, and either eating a high fat diet or not eating enough carbohydrate, calorie restriction, promoted insulin resistance. I'm like, where did that message get lost? Like, they use Hemsworth's data on glucose tolerance. Basically, he was the one who discovered insulin sensitivity versus insulin resistance. They use that data in the, modern medical system,
Yeah,
but they don't use his clinical findings of, what encourages insulin sensitivity and what encourages insulin resistance. They promote the opposite. It's very strange.
that's I think that's all intentional. Like
Yeah,
it's very suspicious. Like this message is being hidden. There's definitely a lot of money going behind it.
absolutely. And so I feel like we're fighting a battle that needs to be fought. Um, but like we're just gonna have to keep like putting out content and showing everyone that, that this works. Like, this is the way. Like, it's food freedom, it's optimal health, it's, feeling good. A lot of people ask me about hormonal health. Don't you need fats for your hormones, the healthy fats? And I'm like, if you're underweight, yeah, like you need to eat more fat for hormonal health. But if you're at a normal weight, like, because I don't eat a lot of overt fats at all, like I really don't like them. And I've just learned to not eat them for my gut issue as well.
Yeah.
So I've had 2 kids eating no overt fats and just eating high carb, low fat vegan. I've just needed, like, during those times and breastfeeding, to eat more calories from carbs. My body just naturally wants to eat more carbs. And that's it. Like, I've never had issues with my period, with having enough breast milk, with conceiving. In fact, I think I'm like super fertile eating this way. But I don't even know where that message came from. The eat your healthy fats, like,
Balance
for
hormones.
yeah. I'm like, well, maybe if you're like
Calories,
under
balance
eating,
hormones.
yeah, it's like the healthy fats message came out, and everybody could get on that, but then you are trying to tell people that carbohydrates are good, and people are like, what? Like, no.
The thing is, those fatty foods generally are also a lot more expensive, like olive oil, coconut oil, butters, cheeses, dairy. They're more expensive than sugar. Sugar has no money in it.
I
Like
know, it's so cheap.
rice, sugar, potatoes, pasta, wheat, they're the cheapest foods on the planet.
Bananas are pretty cheap for fruit.
Yeah, bananas, yeah.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately, a lot of other fruit is very expensive. But
yeah, because and even then fruit to get find good quality sweet fruit is hard. It's a hit and miss with it. Um,
for
like even
sure.
I mean, living in Australia, and I'm struggling to find really good quality fruit all the time. It's
And
very
that's
rare.
sad. And it's summertime there. Well, you guys are probably moving into fall, right?
Yeah, autumn we call it. Fall.
Yeah, because we just got into spring, so our weather's like getting a lot better for riding, which is
Oh,
awesome.
no.
But yeah, the whole fruit thing, it's definitely I've been getting watermelons lately because my 4-year-old likes them a lot, and I like to eat watermelon, but like I eat it and I'm like, oh my God, like where's the sugar?
Yeah, it's mostly just cucumber.
Yeah, I know. It's so sad, or like the texture's off or something, and I just end up blending it. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's I feel like that's intentional too, or like fruits being grown for its, you know, volume versus its quality.
Yeah, and like people aren't willing to invest big money into fruit because, too much fruit is bad.
Yeah,
But
and
let's
sugar.
invest let's invest in the fatty stuff because we need healthy fats.
Yeah, it's just so funny that, how much people get their nutrition advice from like marketing. I mean, that's always been the thing ever since I got into like learning about nutrition when I was probably 18 or 19. I got into like, well, what's healthy and what's not and what's whatever. But yeah, it's always been marketing is what promotes the most information to people.
Yeah. And even then, like we can't go 100% fat free. Like we're always gonna have like 10 to 20 grams of fat just accumulates just through eating whole foods and fruits and sugars, and it's always gonna have like a bananas. If you have like 10 of them, it'll have like 2 grams of fat. Even like you
Yep.
can't go 100% fat free.
Oh yeah, and you don't want to be. You want a little bit of fats because we do need the omega 3s and omega 6s in very small quantities. I think it was one of the big plant-based doctors, T. Colin Campbell, maybe he said that we need about 2% of fat in our diet, which is, for most people like a really low number, but for us we're like, oh yeah, like I meet that every day with my 10 grams of fat that I get from eating all my low fat foods every day, and it ends up being enough. Like I never have had fat deficiency. Like my skin is always, super clear, periods are, normal and light. There's no like fat deficiency, I guess, that I've ever experienced.
My skin is at its clearest when I'm eating high fruit, hydrated, and eating lots of sugars and limiting my fats. To say that fats we need for good skin health is like it's not factual. It's not like when you I actually experienced like trying a bit of fats to see if it would impact my skin, and my skin got worse eating more fats.
Yeah.
So
And I
try
think
it for yourself, like really.
Yeah, and I think that like the reason why the fats thing got popular is because calorie restriction is popular. So instead of eating carbs, people are eating more fat. So people are probably running into deficiency symptoms eating 1,200 calories a day. So they're like, I need to add the fats in, because then they're dealing with low estrogen levels and everything else that comes from a calorie restrictive diet. So adding the fats in helps to it doesn't really help that much, but it helps to negate some of the symptoms that could occur. Because if you're eating like 1,200 calories a day of high carb, low fat foods, you could run into, nutritional deficiencies of not getting in enough like omega 3s or something because your diet's so low in calories. Like that's why we promote calorie sufficiency, eating over 2,000 calories a day. But then when you add the fats into carbohydrate calorie sufficiency, then you end up with the symptoms of like your skin getting worse, periods getting worse, because now you're dealing with the insulin resistance that occurs from those fats being in the bloodstream.
Yeah, and fats are more denser, and because they're not very appetizing, if you eat just fats that you don't want to eat that much. Like I would much rather have a whole big bowl of rice than like a tablespoon of like something fatty like butter or oil or
Yeah, even
Then
avocado, I feel like it makes me like gag. My husband calls it the mayonnaise fruit.
the mayonnaise really, because it's fatty.
Yeah, yeah. And he doesn't like mayonnaise, so he doesn't like avocados either. I thought that was hilarious because it does have that like super fatty, texture to it. And that's a really good point you brought up about the appetite. People eat the fats to blunt their appetite so they can keep calorie restricting. Like that's the whole concept behind that. How many calories a day do you think you average? Or do you have like a range do you think you fall within?
Well, every time I've counted on Chronometer, it's been above 3,000 calories. No one knows exactly what calories they're having every single day. But roughly whenever I estimate on Chronometer, it's above 3,000. And
Nice.
I'm a small girl. I'm like 5'4", so 165 centimeters tall. So we need a lot, and I have a
Yeah.
lot of energy expenditure throughout the day.
Right, but you're probably always maintaining some kind of like calorie surplus. I know I am when I plug my numbers in a chronometer. And I think chronometer is nice to use to get an idea of what you're eating just so that you're eating enough. Like a lot of people they don't know how to eat enough and it gets indoctrinated, under 2000 calories a day. Like you really have to make sure that you are eating over 2000 calories a day so you can be metabolically healthy and be making sure you're getting enough carbs in, but like eat essentially eat according to your appetite, and let that kind of dictate how many calories you need every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I literally only go on Chronometer if I'm curious that I've eaten enough that day. And it's so important to know that you're eating enough, because as soon as you stop eating enough, then everything in life just starts tanking and it's harder. Um, it's harder to be vital and energized, and you can bonk and everything. And yeah. And it
Yeah.
also feels good to eat enough. You feel so much better about yourself, and like any like mental thoughts that you had. Like for me, if I start under eating, the first thing I notice is my mind. My mind can start playing tricks on me and start having like depressing thoughts. But as soon as I get all the sugars in, then I'm like, oh wow, this isn't so bad. What was I thinking before?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're ever like stressed out or tired or, bonking on the bike, because I know like focusing on fitness is so important because if you're not able to perform, you have to look at, am I eating enough first? And then am I sleeping enough second? And then am I overtraining third? And just start going through the list. Like, and typically it's a combination of not eating enough and not resting enough. But it's so important that if you're not, meeting your goals or feeling good or like having a lot of stress in your life that you're, looking at, how much am I eating? Because that's really going to impact all of that.
Yeah. Like as soon as you start feeling carved up, everything in life just becomes easier. And it's so much easier to be happy and grateful. And that's the main thing, really. Like, who wants to live a sad life just seeing the world under a black cloud? But if you get the carbs and you realize that, hey, everything is all good, like it's easy to think more positively.
Yeah, it's easier to get through any kind of life situations. Like you don't want to go into like, a survival type situation being undercarbed or having like low glycogen stores or whatever. You want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're topped up like every, you know, night before bed, like making sure you're eating enough at dinner time so that you can sleep properly. So then
Mm.
you have some glycogen for the next day, and then honoring, your appetite in the morning. Like it all like flows into each other.
Yeah, they all intertwine. Like the moment you start under eating, your sleep can be impacted. And then once your sleep is impacted, you can be more dehydrated because you're not inclined to drinking more water, and it all just flows. Um, Even like not drinking enough water can give you a harder time to digest enough carbs as well.
Yep. Yep. Sleep, water, sugar. You know, you want to get up in the morning, drink some water, get some sugar in, go do some fitness, ideally. I know you were just on your bike this morning before we started getting together, which is awesome. You know, like it's funny because once you get this lifestyle down and then you meet other people who are doing it, you're like, hey, we're all kind of like doing the same thing, like regardless of like what we have going on in life, because we know that this works.
Yeah, definitely.
But
The time has started showing.
yeah, I know. I'm gonna start wrapping this up so we don't get too
Yeah.
long. Yeah, this is part 2 of our chat together with Nutrition by Victoria and EJ. Her YouTube channel is Weight Loss Facts with EJ, correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay,
my
so
new channel name.
yeah, so go check her out. Her content's great and she's going to be uploading a lot more. She's a wonderful success story of somebody who's achieved the results on a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on here and chit-chatting. We'll have to do this again sometime soon.
It's definitely. Thank you, Victoria, for your time and for the questions. It's been really fun chatting with
Yeah.
you. And everyone, check out Nutrition by Victoria on YouTube and Instagram. She's a great mom. She's a very fit, sexy mama. Showing everyone how this lifestyle works. She shows what she eats, and she's got beautiful children.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, all my social media is Nutrition by Victoria. So I'm on Strava, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok's like Nutrition by Victoria 33. I don't know. I don't know how to use TikTok that well. I just play around with it, but yeah, just trying to get the message out there and yeah,
All
do
right,
the
thank you.
do the service. But thank you so much and yeah, let's chat again soon.
You shall enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.